Welcome to the Second Briefing Podcast with Scott and Tom. We're recording from the Gunslinger Clubhouse in beautiful downtown Hillsboro.
Hey everybody, I'm Scott, and I spent 23 years on patrol at a local sheriff's office.
Hey, and I'm Tom. I spent 26 years at that same sheriff's office working with Scott.
In this podcast, we're going to be speaking with former and retired police officers about their life after police work and how they've been dealing with civilian life.
Hey, and maybe we'll have a little fun along the way. Boom, hashtag.
Okay, everybody, let's get to the podcast. Hey everybody, we have our first sponsor of the Second Briefing Podcast. Tall Fur Coffee was started by a retired police officer. Tall Fur roasts and packages their own coffee and has several blends such as Guatemalan and Sumatran. There is even cold brew if you prefer. It gets Tom and I ready for our day. I was not a coffee stop before, but now I am, and Tall Fur is the best.
Right now you go to tallfurcoffee.com and enter the code Second Briefing for 15% off your order. That's the number 2 with an ND briefing for 15% off your order. Thanks for Tall Fur Coffee for all your support.
Order yours today and support first responders.
Hey, welcome back, Second Briefing Podcast. Hey, you with me? You're with the man, Tommy Buckmaster. The 3 words, Tommy Buckmaster. And hey, who we got here?
One word.
One
Scott.
word, the Scott. Woo!
We've been gone for a couple weeks.
Hey, we've been in a hiatus for a couple
Yeah.
weeks. I don't know, I got lost on the way to the
You were
clubhouse.
fishing and I was in the UK.
I was fishing.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I was all screwed up. So
Yeah, you were.
got a good guess. We'll get to him in a second, but we got the
Gerba top 5.
Gerba top 5.
This is the top 5 things that Gerba daydreams about when he's writing his stupid fraud report in the church parking lot. Number 5, traveling back in time as the Gerbanada to save Sarah Connor from the drunk guy at Bushwhackers and saying, "Come with me if you want to ride in my Dodge Ram."
That's a big long one.
It is.
Number 4, since it's now October, having another month of sunny weather to put my boat in the Willamette.
Number 3, having a second caramel blonde pumpkin spice latte.
And number 2, giving Matt Roloff help with the hay rides in his Ram built tough Dodge pickup pumpkin patch.
That's right. And number 1, top 5 thing Gerba daydreams about when writing his stupid fraud report is telling the parents who called in about their kid not going to school that this is not a police matter and to never call again.
Boom, hashtag kill
There it is,
Gerba.
killing Gerba. So we have our guest, Tom. You want to introduce him, please?
Now my mind just went blank.
It did?
Yes.
Do you remember?
It's
who we
Wes.
have?
Help. Am I saying that right? I fucking.
I thought we weren't using last names.
Oh yeah, we weren't. Well, we do sometimes. We forget.
Erase that from the record, please.
It's Wes. Wes
much
worked for.
so much for that witness protection.
I know.
program.
Yes. He
And
worked for the
now
biggest
you've outed
department
him.
in the state of Oregon. So
Yeah.
we worked at TriMet together. He's a good dude. Love that dude. He's right over there.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of
Welcome.
stories. He's got a lot of stories to tell because he worked back in the day when cops were really meant to be cops.
That's right.
And he probably can't tell all the good stories, but might get a couple out. But
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah.
let's go, Wes. What do you got for us?
Tell us about yourself.
Hey, well, thanks for having me here.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Appreciate it. I actually have an affection with here in Hillsboro. They spent a lot of time here growing up. So, yes, you're right. I did work for Portland for 26 and a half years. That was the only place I ever worked, and it was the only job I ever planned on doing growing up. So
Always want to be a cop?
I did. It's kind of interesting. Back in high school, my mom was a police dispatcher, and she finally believed me by the time I was in high school that that's what I was going to do. So she came to me and said, "Hey, the concentration in hiring right now is on minorities, and as a straight white guy, to separate yourself from the rest of the pack, you should learn Spanish because that's something else they're looking for." So dropped out of physics, took Spanish, and I got a minor in Spanish in
You speak
college.
Spanish?
Some.
Who needs
some
physics
still.
anyway, right?
Yeah.
Still some. Yeah,
Some?
I don't use it like I did when
Perfecto.
I worked, but
Perfecto.
I tell you, it was between that and as a wrestler in high school and college, and those are probably the 2 most useful things I learned in school: wrestling and Spanish,
There you go.
to help with the career. So yeah, I worked. I got hired back in 1994. Well, you would think with a degree and being able to speak Spanish,
Yeah.
everybody would want to hire you,
Yeah.
and that was not the case.
Oh my.
Probably applied at like 30 or 35 places all throughout the area. The
I
counties,
think I
the
applied in
cities,
Portland in 94
everywhere.
too.
And it was because Portland had kickstarted their community policing. They were hiring like 20 people every other month, so that's where I got in. And
Who was the chief back then?
Charles Moose.
Was it Moose?
Oh,
That's right.
yeah.
Moose.
I remember
Yep.
Moose,
Yeah, because I became a reserve in '96 in Portland.
Ah, okay.
When it was Moose, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he was there. So I went through, I think, 14 chiefs in 26 years. So
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
I'm not
Well, you
kidding
go
ya.
through a lot of chiefs.
Not kidding you. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's a septic tank for chiefs. You know,
Yeah.
you cannot last there. Impossible.
Yeah, they got a lot of turnover for that position.
Yes, very
Oh,
true.
my.
Very true. So, anyway, saw a lot of changes, a lot
Oh,
of,
I'm sure.
a lot of stories. Everybody's got their hiring story, and
Yeah.
mine no different.
Yeah.
They go and take the test that I think I heard you on another podcast talking about how many people applied back
yeah.
then, and
Oh, yeah.
I stood in line with 10,000 people that
Yeah.
go to the Rose Garden that
Yeah.
take the test, and in giant rooms full of people, and got through that first phase, and the second one, the oral interviews, and I go through it, and I get, it was like a telegram in the mail saying, sorry, you didn't make it, and I was disappointed again, another fail. And 2 days later, I got another one saying, well, actually, you did make it because everybody else had 3 people on their oral boards. You only had 2, so of course you had less points.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I'm back. I was out, I was in, I'm out. Anyway, so
Yeah.
back in.
Oh
So
my gosh.
I get a call from the background guy, and he goes, hey, we're going to try and get you through. We'll get you hired by September of 1993, right? And so we're going to send you this giant background packet, and it's like 16 references or something. So I'm reaching back in the high school, grabbing, old coaches and teachers and everybody. Can
Yeah.
you turn this in as quick as you can? So they all do it, yeah, we'll do it, and September comes and go. I hear nothing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what happened, I didn't call them, and don't call us, we'll call
Yeah.
you, right?
Don't bother us.
Yeah.
Come January the following year, I get a phone call. Hey, you still interested in this Portland job? And I'm like, yeah. They said September. I heard nothing. I thought somehow, well, your background guy, he transferred over the gang unit. We just found all your background stuff in a paper bag on his old desk.
Oh my gosh.
You're just sitting there.
Yeah, just sitting there, and someone happened to look at it and
Well,
said,
what is this paperwork?
So yeah,
Oh,
so
awesome.
they shotgunned me through in like a month and hired me in February.
Oh,
I mean, it was
fantastic.
crazy. Yeah,
Like
so
somebody
anyway,
looked through that paperwork.
yeah,
It would be
Yeah.
sitting there forever, right? Till
Yeah.
somebody else got
Or
that
may
list.
never have been
six
found.
yeah.
6 months. Yeah.
Oh my
and
gosh.
So anyway, so yeah, got through and kind of a rocky start, I would say, to
Yeah.
How old were you when you first got hired?
24.
24.
24. I looked about 15,
Oh, yeah.
which came in handy because right off probation, they grabbed me and said, hey, you want to go out and pick up prostitutes? And I'm like, let's do it. So
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
they gave me a shiny little pickup, and my background story I just made up on the spot because nobody gave me any training on how to do it or what to say or what to do. So I put my police radio in a paper sack, and I hid it in the door pocket, and I had a gun on me, but no body armor, nothing else. Where the car wasn't wired, we had nothing, and it was like a predestined thing. Go pick one up. We'll follow you in an undercover car and make a deal with them, and then after you do, pull in this parking lot, and we'll have police waiting for you there. Like, okay. In the meantime,
my.
yeah, I
That
kid
sounds
you
a
not.
little
That's it.
nerve-wracking.
That's
Kid
it.
you not. Oh, it was fun to me. It was a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I was acting.
But
And,
was this after all your field training or right away out of the gate?
no, after the training.
Okay,
So
like-
after I was on my own.
Can you
yeah.
imagine like first day? Hey, you're gonna go pick up prostitutes.
Oh yeah,
That'd be crazy.
And so it was easy because
Yeah.
I looked so young. I just told everybody I was 18 or 19, so
Yeah.
nobody ever thought for a second, I was
Yeah.
an officer, and
Yeah.
with one exception, and
Yeah.
she's an old time, long time, instincts,
Right.
pretty good.
She figured
And,
it out.
and I, had the background story. No, I work for a car dealership. I bring the cars around to get detailed and blah, blah, blah. Everybody bought it.
Yeah.
Hook, line, and sinker. So anyway, it's kind of interesting, because it was the big agency, big city, I got to do a lot of stuff like that, and probably picked up 100 prostitutes. I mean, how many people can come home and say, "Yeah, I picked up 100 prostitutes, and I got paid to do it"? So,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
a lot of people do that. So that was one of the cool things I got to do. But back, during probation, so I had a couple of terrible things happen darn near right out to shoot, So Portland's got the advanced academy, so they put you on the street for a while, and then they pull you back and stick you through another academy. Back then, basic was 8 weeks, and then the advanced academy was another 8 weeks. And so, anyway, I had a coach that I got along with really good right before I went to the advanced academy, and he and I worked out in East County, and he's really good at working prostitution and stuff out on 82nd. That's when I, pre-internet stuff. There was none of the Craigslist or Backdoor or whatever the websites they're all using. It was if a single female walking on 82nd was a prostitute back then. Anyway, so it was easy hunting grounds. And anyway, so he and I got along great, how some coaches really click with, where he's almost father-like, and stuff, but he wasn't that much older than me. And anyway, married kid, blah, blah, blah. So we got along great. I go off to Advanced Academy, and then we graduate on a Friday. Well, I had a new coach working swing shift back at East Precinct again, same shift, but now a new coach.
Yeah.
And I show up on Monday because I found out his days off were like, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I show up on Sunday at work, and the sergeant's like, "What are you doing here? This isn't an adjusted day off because you had to work, Thursday and Friday." And they go, "Well, nobody told me." "Well, do you want to work?" I'm like, "Well, I'm here. Why not?" So jump in the car with the new coach, and we're about ready to eat lunch, and my previous coach, the guy Dave that I got along with great, he had a new coach or a new trainee, and anyway, we happened to pull up at the same place out at 122 in Gleason. The old Hanson building was a Multnomah County building and stuff. Yeah. We were going to go in and eat lunch, but he'd gotten a call, and it was at an apartment complex, and tried to make this short. A girl who lived in the apartment, she had a gangbanger boyfriend, and all his buddies showed up, and they're flashing a gun and stuff like that, and she gets scared, called the police. So they send Dave and his trainee get this call, and we're like, "Well, we're here, you want us to cover you on it?" And the sergeant was going to come too and stuff. And so Dave's doing all the background stuff, and this is all pre-computers in the car. So he had to call the precinct and have them, get on the computer, do the background on the boyfriend and the boyfriend's friend who had the gun and everything. So we make a plan, we're going to go knock on the door, get this gun, and, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, Dave and his trainee and the sergeant, they go up to the front door, and it's a 2-level apartment, and we go around the back in case they bail out the back. Well, they'll jump out the second-story window. We all know that. So we're around the back, and they come up on the radio, "Okay, we made entry, send the other guys around," which was us. So we come around the front and then get up to the apartment, and one of the guys is handcuffed standing outside the apartment, and they basically assigned me to watch this guy. And there's another guy, so the girl who'd called in said the guy's name is Ivan Dixon. Well, the guy inside they have handcuffed, he said his name's Trevor Dixon, so we just think he's lying about his first name. And Dave and his trainee are looking around for the gun. I'm guarding the guy outside, the guy inside. Well, the girl's boyfriend that they were all visiting, he'd gone off the office to get a toilet plunger because he had, plugged the toilet and didn't have one. So I borrow one. Well, he comes back, and now he wants back in the apartment, and we're not letting him in. And anyway, senses right away that the 15-year-old looking cop doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
But, no, I'm guarding this guy, and he just targets me. He just picking on me the whole time. You think you're, tough, you got that bad, that gun, you're nothing, that whole thing. Trying to start something with me the whole time. And so I'm just ignoring him. And anyway, there comes a point where I'm standing the apartment door. I'm standing with my back kind of where the door hinges are, basically,
Right.
facing outwards. I got jackass boyfriend over here chipping at me. I got handcuffed guy standing in front of me. And I look back inside, and the other guy, Trevor Dixon, is handcuffed, and he's down the hallway where I can see him, and I can see Dave like looking around, and he grabs a girl and he's talking because they're looking for the gun. They want to find this gun, and all of a sudden I hear shots fired, and I look back in, and I see Dave is in a gun battle shooting, but he's shooting around the corner where I can't see him. Trevor Dixon is sitting there still, and he's kind of cringed down, and I grab my prisoner, I throw him down on the ground, I turn, and I run in the apartment, and everybody talks about this distortion of the sound and sight and everything, and slow down. So going down this very short hallway, a very narrow entry, and I'm the first one in. All I can hear is my heart pounding and my footsteps. That's all I can hear.
Oh,
and I see, as I'm going in, I can see Dave. He's backpedaling and he's doing a high step. If you played football, you know what high stepping is. So he's high stepping because the bullets are coming, and I can see the bullets hitting him. And he's getting peppered by bullets, and I can see the casings going out of Dave's SIG 45, and it's like I feel things had slowed down. I felt like I could reach out and grab one. It was that kind of thing. And I didn't hear the gunshots, but I could see the guns slide and the shell casing come up in the air and stuff. And I could see where the bullets were hitting him because it'd make these like material puffs in his clothing and stuff. And he backs up and he falls onto Trevor Dixon, and they're laying there, and by then I'm to the corner of this hallway, and as I'm slicing the pie around the corner, there's this guy on the ground, and he's laying like a seal, kind of. His hands are flat like this, and his legs are back and twisted around, and there's like this trail of blood behind him, and he's crawling right at me. And he's been shot too. And I come around the corner and his head's right there, and I'm like finger on the trigger, thinking I'm gonna, like this is obviously the guy who'd been in the shootout, and the mental decision whether to shoot or not. And all of a sudden, Dave's new trainee, Mark, comes flying out of there and does this knee drop right in the guy's back to flatten him out. And I've never told him how close I was to shooting him, because you think I'd like the decision, and the guy is crawling there, he's been shot, but he also just shot the cop. I don't know the gun, did
you see the guy's gun that was on the floor?
No, because it was I see the face and I see the blood behind him and stuff, and it's like was he
David
coming around
hit
the
him
corner
quite
to
a few
shoot?
times.
Dave's
or somebody had
twisted David shot him,
right?
But I also saw Mark shoot too. He's on the other side of this couch in the living room, and I see him shoot, and then he does this sidestep and disappeared. I had no idea where he was.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, he does this drop, and I like to this day, how close I was to blue on blue gunfire there.
Oh gosh.
Anyway, so we cuff him up, drag him out, and we were getting some help there. But so they drag out. This was actually Ivan Dixon, and he was in there. Him and Trevor were cousins. He wasn't lying about his name. So the deal was, when the police knocked on the door, Ivan had the gun, and there's this bed in the living room that was like high up off the ground. And when Dave's looking around for the gun, he peers under the bed, and Ivan's laying on his side with the gun like this, and that's the gun battle they get in.
Oh, shit.
And so what's interesting, some of the aftermath and stuff, I find out. So Dave fired his gun, we thought till it went empty, single sack, you run out of rounds quick. Ivan was firing his gun, and he only quit because one of Dave's rounds hit the trigger guard on Ivan's gun, and it sprung the frame. It wouldn't work anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
well, that's interesting.
it was crazy. Yeah, so that's why he stopped shooting. Of course, we didn't know at the time and everything, but he did get the shot on Ivan too. Was broke his femur, and in fact, later on at OHSU, they were talking about taking his leg. They didn't. They saved it. Wonderful medical establishment there. Yeah. So anyway, and then Dave got hit 4 times, hip and above the knee and the arm and everything else, and but lived. And I just so many things from that incident. I rode with Dave to the hospital and the ambulance, coming down I-84. This is my first night out of the Advanced Academy. I've got 6 months on, It's trial. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, basic was February. This was December 19th, 1994. And going down I-84 and, stuff happens,
Right.
And so Dave's sitting there and he's like, am I supposed to be getting oxygen from this thing? The EMT forgot to turn on the oxygen tank, so he's got the mask
That's
on.
great,
He's
yeah.
sucking his own shit up.
Yeah,
Oh
so
my
that's
gosh.
one thing. And then Dave's got a backup gun in his vest. Here, you better take this other gun, and and all this stuff. And he looks up at me, and it, one of those moments, he looks up and he goes, I don't think I'm gonna die, am I? And so he was my coach, father-like, and I'm, the young,
Right.
I just turned 25 not that long ago, 25-year-old, looking down at him and like, no, you're not going to die. I was pissed at him for saying it, No, you're not going to die and stuff. I'm like, these wounds, they're nothing, Hell, I didn't know, how many times he's been hit or anything. I just knew he was talking to me in the ambulance and, no way he's going to die.
Yeah.
So, we go up to the hospital up at OHSU and I go in with him and they're, cutting his clothes off and they cut his boxers off and he goes, great, now I'm hanging out for everybody, aren't you? He's been shot 4 times and he's still making jokes about it,
Yeah.
the typical, make
Yeah.
the best of it. But they finally, they're putting these paper clips in his bullet wounds, and then haul him out of the room. And it was the most, probably one of the worst feelings in the world is now standing there in this intake room by myself.
Yeah.
Blood all around, clothes all around. Everybody had left.
Yeah.
I'm just standing there like, now what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, where do you go?
I
What
had
do you do?
focused before. I lost.
Yeah, what do you do now?
Yeah, so anyway, nurse came and grabbed me and got me out. So anyway, that was the first thing that happened. And then take 2 weeks off, and come back and they stick me with another guy. And he wasn't a coach. He was a guy who probably shouldn't have ever been hired. And this guy went from strip bar to strip bar, hang out. He's got all this, he knows all the bouncers, all the strippers and everything. That was,
That was his deal, huh?
that was his deal. And so he and I are at it darn near same location across the street. We go in this strip club and sit down, and his routine, you walk in and sit at the bar. Bartenders would always bring us a glass of water and stuff. So we're sitting there and he leans over and he goes, see the guy, the blonde guy at the playing pool there? He's not 21. How do you know? And he's like, oh, he drives the strippers around, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, what do we do? I'm still new, and this is my first night back. And goes, oh, well, just wait and see what he does and stuff. So the guy finished the pool game. He saw we were staring at him, and so he just finished the game and he leaves. And so we walk outside, and his car, he goes, that's his car right there. I'm like, you know everything about this guy. And, he goes, we don't see him anywhere. So we get in our car, we leave, we circle around the block, we park in the dark, and kind of, watching his car. And he'd gone into McDonald's or something, and he comes back out and he gets in his car and he turns on his car. He's got one headlight. So we do a traffic stop on him and walk up on the door, and he has no license. And so we hook him up for fail to display, even though it was kind of weird because this guy, Brad, the other cop, who's my temporary coach, goes, yeah, hook him up. you smell that? And the car just reeked like weed, you know, big time and stuff. And like, yeah.
Back when it was
stuff.
illegal. Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to tow the car because we're going to arrest him, you know, back then. And inventory search, a backpack in the back. Whose backpack is this? I don't know. Stripper left it in there. I don't know. But
Of course, yeah.
open it up. And
Not
there's
his pants either. Yeah.
yeah, great big gallon-sized bag with all the, you know, weed, you know, like 3/4 of a pound of weed in there probably or something, you know.
Yeah.
It was a bunch, but it was all packaged up and stuff. And so drive this clown down the jail. Well, Brad was buddies with a guy who used to be a DJ for KUFO 101, KUFO
Yeah,
okay.
radio back in the day.
Yeah.
So Michael May.
Okay.
And so Brad and him are talking on the cell phones. Back then, the police cars had corded cell phones, you know, in there and stuff, and speakerphone. And they're talking, you know, half the time, you know, calling each other back and forth. You know, obviously good buddies. I'm the new guy who knows nothing. So anyway, we go and drop the dude off at jail, you know, on the failed the display. And I had worked at downtown prior to going out to East Precinct. And when we'd make a drug arrest, there's a evidence locker down in the basement, and we'd throw it in the safe or whatever and stuff. I go, you want me to go throw that in, you know, property? And he goes, no, we'll do it out at the precinct. I'm like, okay, you know what you're doing. You know, I'm the new guy, right? And then so we leave the police, dropping this guy off, and he goes, you ever seen a radio station? Oh, no. And he goes, we drive down McAdam, the radio station and stuff, and calls the guy, hey, we're outside. So he comes and lets us in, and he show us around and stuff. It's kind of cool if you've never seen it. It's kind of a neat thing, you know. And so we come back out, and Brad goes, hey, you got a minute to the DJ, you know? And yeah, I want to show you something. And he takes him in the trunk, and he shows him this giant bag of weed. Check this out. And the guy's like, holy shit, you know, where'd you get all that and stuff? And he tells him the story and stuff. I'm like, oh, right on, you know, whatever. So we take off, you know, we're working the shift, and it was swing shift. And so, you know, like 1 o'clock in the morning, get a burglary at a restaurant. It wasn't our call, but we went and covered on it and stuff, and get there, and the guy's gone. It was obviously a break-in, and we had to find a responder to come there, so they could take a report and find out what's missing, that kind of. And I'm helping look around to try and find someone's name or phone number or something, you know, back when that's how you had to do it, because there's no computers or anything.
Right.
Find out anything. So we're, you know, trying to find an address book or employee book or something, and looking around, and pretty soon I don't see Brad anymore, you know, but I'm trying to be, you know, Johnny on the spot helpful, you know, and look for a while, and finally it's like, man, we're almost done, you know, it's like 1:30, we're off at 2, you know. You go out the car, and here's Brad's talking on the cell phone, you know, again to, you know, and they're talking about a concert or whatever, and we get in the car and we drive back to the precinct and put our gear away. Well, still have to write a report for the, you know, the weed and the, you know, the traffic stop and all that stuff. And so I sit down, I do a property receipt because I'm going to toss the, you know, the weed in the property room. And I'm the new guy, always has to write the reports, right? So I sit down and he goes, you know what? This is your first night back. You look really tired. Why don't you go home? I'll take care of this. And I thought, what a nice guy. Because I was
sure.
freaking
beat, I'm sure you were,
just exhausted.
I'm sure he's
know,
such a nice guy. I'm sure.
Right.
This
so
is sounding
I want that
interesting.
weed.
I
want that weed for myself.
I feel like something's coming here.
So something's coming. So anyway, fast forward a couple weeks, I come home from swing shift, and I got an answering machine message, if that doesn't date me.
Oh, yeah, no, I remember
Get home,
machines.
you know, it's blinking and stuff, and there's a note there. Yeah, the DA's office called. You have a grand jury at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just getting home at 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I got to be downtown at 8. What was weird is I had no subpoenas. We used to get those in our mailboxes, and they didn't tell me who the suspect was on the answering machine. You need to go to the career criminal unit across the street from the regular courthouse, and be there at 8 and whatever DA's name, office, and so I'm like, okay, and I was thinking, great, that's sweet. It's overtime, I get to go in, you know, you get my 4 for 6. Anyway, so.
Right.
So I get up in the morning and I go in there and I go to the career criminal unit and I assume it's on Ivan Dixon for the shooting because we hadn't had a grand jury or anything on this officer involved shooting and stuff. So I go, I think it's this, and the deputy DA Jim McIntyre, you know, it's his office and well-respected guy. And anyway, so I go, you know, nobody knew me there. I'm still brand new, and I go, hey, you know, I'm officer and blah blah, and so the secretary gal goes in and tells him, and McIntyre comes out and he looks at me, hey Wes, hey, he goes, yeah, it is. It's on Ivan Dixon. I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting there, and he goes down the hallway. It's all very unusual. I've been in the grand jury before by then, and it's a little bit of court, not a lot, but a little bit. And he comes back, okay, follow me. Okay, I've never even been in this building, so takes me down the hallway and opens up the door, and this giant, imagine like, you know, medieval times where there's the giant table where everybody's going to eat at. It'll look like a great big long table. All these empty chairs except for 3 guys in suits at the end of the table. Hey, Jim looks at McIntyre, looks at me and go, hey Wes, these guys are going to want to talk to you, and shuts the door right behind me.
Oh.
And I'm like, huh? And he stands up, and the guy walks over to me, and he introduces himself. He's a Portland detective assigned to the feds for the Federal Fugitive Task Force. I'm like, okay. They go, come sit down. This is so-and-so from FBI, and this is so-and-so. I'm like, you know what? And they go, we think you're a witness in some criminal conduct by an officer, but you probably don't even know it. And so I'm going back in my head, you know, thinking, what could have I seen, or what, you know? Yeah. And it's kind of funny because, you know, 2 names flashed in my head. One guy was my very first coach, who was, if you can imagine, like the typical guy in the military, for example, that is in supply, that's always wheeling and dealing and trading stuff. So that's my first coach. He was selling stuff on duty all the time. People are calling him, pagers. I mean, he had people like the abortion clinic in Portland, the Lovejoy Surgery Center, call them, hey Brad, we need mattresses down at our beach house. Okay, I can do that. He has mattresses that he can get them and delivers them on his weekends. And assistant chief call, hey, it's my wife's birthday. What should I get her? She needs a brand new VCR, and he gets her a VCR. I mean, this guy, he's got pallets of stuff in a warehouse, and I mean, just unbelievable, this wheeling and dealing this guy would do. But everybody knew he did it, and the assistant chief calling him for stuff. Yeah, you know.
So that's
hey, I'm building a house and I need wiring. We go somewhere and he house wiring, loads it in the trunk of the police car, and we're driving like, you know, the lowrider in the back, you know.
Oh my gosh.
It was unbelievable by today's standards. Nobody would believe that was happening. But I'm brand new. I don't know what's going, you know, that kind of stuff going on. So I thought of him, and then I thought of this guy, Brad.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. They're both named Brad. I just, you know, never realized. But yeah, Brad. Yeah. And so anyway, so I'm sitting there, and they lay down a property receipt, and it's a property receipt I'd written for that weed. Yeah. And I had on there 1 large bag of marijuana, and this idiot 2 lines through large and put small. He was too lazy to rewrite a property receipt, and he just put 2 lines through large and put small, and it was obviously different handwriting from the rest of it. And they go, we need you to tell us everything you know about this. So I told them the long version of what I just told you guys and stuff, and blah blah. And they go, okay. And they ask me a question, and I go, well, I don't like how this looks, you know. And they go, well, you're on probation, so you don't get union rep or a lawyer or anything. I go, and you're not a suspect, so you don't need one. And I'm like, even by then I knew that was a line of bull, you know? Yeah. And I go, you know, I just don't like how this makes me look. That's my handwriting, my signature's on the property receipt. But I go, look, that's obviously not me. And they go, well, I go, I'm not answering anymore until I have a lawyer. And they go, okay, hold on a second. They go down and they do this little 3-man meeting. They come back and they go, okay, as a sign of good faith that we believe you, we want to play something for you. And they play an audio, a cassette tape, the old school tape recorder, cassette tape, and they've got it. There was a listening device in the police car. They listened to everything that was said in there, which we all say some stuff in there like, I wasn't worried about that. It was, they had him talking. So if you go back to when I was in that restaurant looking for the names, they're talking about the weed.
Yeah.
And he's like, and there's all this conversation about it. And it starts out, first thing, the radio DJ is like, where's your partner at? And Brad's like, oh, he's in using the can. And he goes, dude, that guy looks like a punk. You'd kick his ass. That's what he says on there. Oh, and Brad goes, oh, he's just really tired. This is his first night back from the shooting and stuff, kind of stuck up for me. And he goes, yeah, whatever, but, it starts bagging on me, which, of course, instantly pisses me off. I was like, man, anything I know, I'm going to, say and everything. So, anyway, they start talking, and like, at one point, the radio guy goes, I'll give you half of whatever I sell it for. I mean, very incriminating stuff. I'm talking about some stuff. I'm like, I'm mortified about all this. I was like, screw that guy. Blah blah blah. Now that I saw it, but they obviously were onto it. I'm like, how'd you guys get this recording? Oh, someone recorded it off a baby monitor, and I was like, at the time, I go, wow, that was really fortunate that someone had a tape recorder right by their baby monitor where they're, obviously not. They were on to them, from other stuff. And I found out later, they were and stuff. So anyway, I had to go to the grand jury on that guy, which hugely, I'm still on probation, still brand new guy. And now they're bringing me into a real grand jury on this guy where I got to tell the story. And it's McIntyre, that deputy DA. He goes, why don't you tell the grand jury how we got you to testify in the first place? And I tell this story basically where I'm telling how deceptive they were about it and everything, which they got to be. I totally understand and everything.
Yeah. Wow.
But it was after that, my mom, had worked out here. Like I said, she'd dispatcher for Banks and Hillsborough and Washington County and everything. She's like begging me, quit, get out of there, all this happened within a year of getting hired there,
That's just crazy.
Just you quit, and I'm like, no, I'm not a quitter, and anyway, so stuck it out, and I gotta, like I say, I gotta do a lot of amazing things. I had a year, 1998 was a bad year too. I mean, 94, bad year, 98, another one, came back too. And it's like, I was nearly killed 3 times in 1 year, hit sideswiped by a Dewey on I-84, crashed, tow driver, picked up the car, he's just leaving, and look up in the mirror and I see this Dewey come crashing through all the flare pattern. And I'm like, I'm, his Jersey barrier's right next to me, and I put it in reverse, and I kind of get over as much as I can, and he sideswipes the side of the car and goes up the hillside, and I was like,
oh my God,
freaking dodged a bullet there. And then I had a incident at Food for Less, New Year's Eve, and I'm supposed to be off at midnight, and I was like, it's New Year's Eve, where I'm going to get to by midnight, I was like, you know what? I'll work. They needed more people, so I volunteered to stay over for a few hours to help out the next shift. And a guy, Food for Less, 82nd, and well, back then it was, but 82nd and Pal there, and a clerk calls in saying, it's like people are darn near rioting, running in and out with food, and they got some guy screaming at her in line and everything. And the background is they're end of the night, if you're working in a grocery store, they got to run a store report, so it prints out all the sales of the day. And so as people are coming in, she's the only clerk working there, and she's got 2 other employees who basically are maintenance guys mopping the floor, non-English speaking. And that's it in the store. And, they're mopping the floors, and she's telling everybody coming in, hey, I'm running the store report. I can't ring anybody up until it's done. It's going to take 20 minutes and stuff. And okay, everybody's shopping, everybody's done with New Year's. Now everybody's got the munchies and stuff.
Right,
so.
yeah.
Food.
I'm hungry.
So this
And
guy,
drinking all
I gotta
night.
take a break. You guys keep talking.
All right, yeah.
Anyway, so they
Yeah.
get upset about, waiting in line. This guy screaming at her,
Yeah.
and she had told him, I can't run a
ring you
report
out,
and
yeah.
stuff. So anyway, I was right there when the call comes out, and the report was people are now running out with stuff. So I pull up right in front of the door. Nobody's running out. And so I'm walking in the door, and I guess a parallel would be Vader versus Luke, Here I am walking in, I'm hired, I'm 5'7", 145 pounds. This guy's 6'4", 250, much, much bigger. And I see, I look up at the grocery stand, and this gal, she's now ringing stuff out. And she's this, very innocent looking, overweight, just bawling her eyes out, just very small, and it was like a beat puppy dog. She's just
Right.
bawling her eyes out, ringing stuff up, and this guy is just standing over the top of her, screaming at the top of his lung, pointing at her, yelling, and
Jeez.
looking and stuff. And then she does, I never forget her look on her face. She looks up and sees me, and all the fear disappeared off her face. She's like, thank God you're here, kind
Right.
of a thing. And she looks up at me, and he's yelling, and he sees the change in her face, and his head whips around, and he looks because he read what was going on, and he sees me back there, and he stopped yelling at her. He goes then the counter, you got to bag your own stuff. He grabs a bag and starts throwing groceries in there and stuff, and then all of a sudden he just can't take it anymore. Throws the stuff in, turns around, comes right at me, and it's like I said, Vader going right towards Luke, just crunch right at me.
Yeah.
And he comes up and he goes, I've been waiting in line for 20 minutes and you don't want to fuck with me tonight. And I was like, this guy's out of control. I take out my asp, I whip it to my side, because there's no way that I'm going to,
This guy's just way, way big.
and I'm
right?
by myself, And the last update on the call was, he's supposed to have left, and I come in there and he's still there and stuff. So I go, they want you to leave the store, and I grab him by the arm, and he flings me across, and he's, kind of squares up, going to fight, and I'm like, I'm going to strike first, and I'll whack him on the side of the knee, yell at him to get on the ground, and he looks at me like the asp. I mean, okay, you're spanking someone with a switch, it's
Yeah.
fly swatter,
To this guy,
And so I whack on the side of the knee, and he does this bull charge at me, coming at me, and I'm hitting him, and I'm backpedaling, hitting him as much as I can, and one of his buddies in line comes over the top of me from behind, and when I look back behind me, they see who's grabbing me. I came down and split this guy's head open. He's bull charging me, and
oh, jeez.
this guy, I might have got him on a backswing or something. I don't know, but he let go. This guy goes down, and he's laying there, and he's in this crouch tiger thing. He's got his foot up, and I'm yelling at him, to get on his stomach and stuff. And nobody's been searched, hostile crowd and everything. And later on video, I didn't know it at the time, but the guy who had gone over the top of me, he's now stalking me. He's out back trying to get behind me again. And luckily somebody had come in to do their can return at 2:00 in the morning and sees this, and he yells at the guy, you better stay away from him or something like that. And the guy lost his nerve and ran out, and my cover gets there. And anyway,
Wow.
end up, we arrest this guy, and he got 16 staples in his head and stuff. But
You hit him just right in that
You can
instance, man.
see how this, could have gone horribly wrong.
Oh, yeah.
So many ways, yeah.
so
Oh,
many
my.
ways, exactly. And turns out this guy that I whacked over the head that's on the ground, Patrick Lewis, he, 15 years before, he's drunk and idiotic downtown Portland. There's a Portland officer off duty with his pregnant wife who had gone to a show. They're walking down the sidewalk hand in hand. They come up to a crosswalk, and they're waiting. And he comes up behind them, and he shoves his way through and knocks him aside and stuff, punches Red Rover, punches and knocks him aside and the officer draws down on him because he had a buddy with him then too. The officer ends up firing a warning shot in the middle of downtown.
Oh,
a couple
geez.
officers heard it and pulled up on it and stuff. So this guy was no stranger to the crime. He was not a good guy. So
Okay.
anyway, so that was another one, and then
Well, so I know that you're in a time crunch too. So
Yeah.
we're kind of getting, and I love these stories. These are crazy stories from Portland.
Yeah.
When you were at Portland, did you promote at all? Did you do any promotions?
I didn't.
Okay,
I
so
did
you
not.
stayed a line officer the
I
whole time?
Probably had like a year of acting sergeant time.
Acting
but
sergeant,
no,
okay.
no. But
Just didn't
no,
want to do that, just like working the road? And,
I tried, and I
Yeah.
got a story about that too.
Yeah.
I didn't meet the the promotional group that they were looking
Right.
for. I took a test, and when I went back to look out Y Sport, I scored so poorly. I found there was a whole bunch of things that they scored me poorly on that were
Right.
wrong. We had, the evaluators on the test. They'd written down my answers, and I was hitting the bullet points, but they didn't give me points for it.
oh,
And
weird.
so I grabbed the HR guy and I go, hey, how come I'm not getting points for this? It's right here written. And his response was, well, it looked like you got some high scores over here.
So they didn't score you for the other part.
No, it was
Makes
so blatant. And I'm
Ah.
like, you know what? I don't want any part of it.
Yeah.
I don't want any part of it. So
That's silly.
anyway,
Yeah, so that's why you just.
but I
stayed,
got
yeah.
I by working at the big agency, I did 5 years at the Horse Patrol.
Well, that's
Oh,
right. I
that's
forgot
cool.
about that. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I
horses. Yeah.
Did 5 years there, and I mean, I got to go over to Montana for a week for horse training. Went up
Oh,
to
that's cool.
Vancouver, BC, a couple of times where we did these regional, horse training with Vancouver, BC, Washington, Seattle. So that was really good.
That's
and
awesome.
I went 2 weeks to Ottawa, Canada, to the RCMP Police College, and got to ride the RCMP horses
Right.
for a couple of weeks. That was pretty amazing. And then did 9 years at TriMed. I did.
That's how you guys met,
Yeah,
right?
we met
Okay.
at Yeah.
Did, got to
was a
do a
good
lot
gig.
of prostitution. I bought dope undercover a bunch of times. I got to do a lot of things like that. That's the upside to work in the big city. That
Yeah.
there's
A lot of
there's
stuff to do,
that.
yeah.
Got to. In fact, and I got to get my funny story in here.
Yeah.
Right? So
Please,
anyway.
yeah, of course.
So I got to work on some movie sets and got to know people,
cool.
and I got to do some small parts like the movie The Hunted. I'm one of the
Okay.
horse cops in that, and
Yeah.
got to know people.
Oh shit! I have to
and
go back and watch it.
then later on,
A lot of cops in the hunt.
I got hired as a technical advisor for that movie Untraceable with Diane Lane as an internet,
yeah.
Okay.
mass murder movie or a serial killer movie.
Okay,
So.
yeah, I remember that.
So I got to do that, and I was hired as a technical advisor for a police scene for a day, and also I was going to be an extra in it. And so they'd hired this guy who to be a cop in the scene with Diane Lane, and he's a young guy, aspiring actor. He moved to L.A. to try and be an actor, and he didn't make it, so he comes back and he finally lands his first speaking role as a cop in this movie.
Right.
The problem is he had no idea how to act like a cop, and the
geez.
director of this movie wanted authentic, cops. They
Right.
hired a ton of cops and FBI and lab techs, all these authentic people to be in this movie. And so anyway, we're doing this scene where the serial killer is stalking Diane Lane, who's the lead detective, trying to track him down, and hides a body in a burnt body in the trunk and parks it outside of her house with a webcam on it at her house. And so anyway, we're directing the scene, and the police are supposed to come up there, and this guy's supposed to be a cop. Well, he keeps running up, pointing his gun at Diane Lane, and keeps saying, no, depressed ready if you think, And anyway, so we kept blowing the scene, and the director's getting really ticked off about it, and I'm, trying to work with him and stuff. He just didn't have it. He didn't have the experience,
Right.
He probably didn't go out and do a ride along to learn a little bit, like he should have done some background. So
Right.
anyway, the director grabs me aside and he goes, well, have you ever done any acting before? And I'm not going to tell you the other stuff, but there's been other indie movie. I've done a couple of things, and so
I was in Summer Stock.
Oh my
you know,
gosh.
And anyway, so a little bit, and he goes, okay, here's your audition. And he made me stand out in the street and go through the lines and stuff. He goes, okay, you don't have to talk so loud because, you get in your command voice, your voice, goes up. And he goes, don't talk so fast, slow down. And, we'll adjust the volume and stuff. And he goes, I'm going to give him one more chance after lunch. If he blows it, he's out, you're in. And I'm like,
holy shit, that's crazy.
Awesome. So we go off to lunch, and the whole time I go, come on, dude, screw it up, screw it up. And because it's a big movie, they have great catering and everything, great lunch, blah, blah, blah. And he come back, and sure enough, he comes back, and he just totally sucks. Just terrible,
Oh, no.
And I see the director go over, arm around him, like the old Lifesavers commercial. Here's that have a Lifesavers. Yeah, they take you back. Anyway, so walks him off the side, and I watch this guy totally deflate. Just
oh no. So he's crushed,
just crushed. Director walks over, he's out, you're in. And dude, one take and we got it. Bam, done.
Nice.
Yeah. And then they had us go through it a couple more times. They do a couple different camera angles, and it's kind of fun because the director, they had their lines for it, and they were terrible. It was not they're not the way a cop would talk, ma'am, do you know whose vehicle this might belong to? That kind of stuff. Yeah. And I got to write my own lines. Yeah. And got to do this thing, and even Diane Lane, she comes out of the house, holding the gun like Cagney and Lacey. And nobody does that. And she's like, well, what did I go to the FBI Academy for 2 weeks for? And I go, that's why all the cops make fun of the FBI,
Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah, you should have seen her face because she wasn't used to people, talking back. But I'm like, hey, here's the deal. Yeah. We don't do that.
Shoot your face off.
Yeah. So anyway, they had me sign a contract and stuff. So because I had speaking lines, my fee went up from $300 to $900 or $1,000. I still get residuals from the movie, so that's kind of cool and stuff. So, so that's one of those things. Had I not been at the big agency, right place, right time, wouldn't have got it.
That's pretty cool.
Anyway, so here's the funny part out of it. That's the background. The funny part is later on, I decided to prank my shift. So I printed out some pictures of Diane Lane off the internet, and I got them, put them on glossy photos. I got someone to autograph them. One of them was to me. One of them was to my precinct. And so we had hired this desk clerk that was from California who I just had, in conversation, I found out about it, and I go, do you think if I mailed something, they could mail it from California so the post ink on the stamps and everything would look like it came from California?
Yeah.
So I penned a letter from Diane Lane to me.
Oh, no.
With pictures saying, being in that movie, you really stood out. And I just, a whole line of BS about everything.
No, that's awesome.
You need to move to California and all this stuff. And I put it together, a packet, the pictures, the letter, everything, mailed it to California, had it mailed to me at the precinct. And then Saturday morning, I opened it up in front of everybody. Who's this from? L.A.? Huh? Who do I know in L.A.? And everybody's like, what? They're looking at this packet. I opened it up. Holy crap, check this out. It's a picture of Diane Lane. 2 West, you were, you bought. And then 2 Southeast precincts. And everybody's jaws are dropping, watching this thing open up and stuff. And of course, that became the talk of the town. And I posted the picture on the bulletin board. That's told very few people about that. So there's still people today that still think she wrote that thing.
Oh, no.
What was the name of the movie?
Untraceable.
Untraceable?
Yeah.
Now I gotta watch it.
I do too. I gotta see it right here.
All right. I made the trailer. You can just watch the trailer if you don't want to see the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so I pranked
awesome.
because of that. That was my, one of my
funny.
best pranks. So
That's good.
That's awesome.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
I had to get my funny story in there.
There you go. That's good. So you retired in what year?
August of 2020, right in the middle of the George Floyd riots, the
probably
burning,
a good time.
180 days of rioting.
Oh my gosh!
It made it easy.
There you go. So, like I said, I know you got to get to work here. So, the question what what advice would you have for someone that wants to get into law enforcement and or getting ready to retire?
It's interesting. So I had a blast working, and quite honestly, had 2020 not happened, there's a chance I may still be working. I freaking love chasing and catching and solving, and I kind of morphed in my career too, where later on about finding people who are real victims and calling them later to see how they're doing and stuff. I got, a bunch of cards from people, so thankful and sincere. You feel like when you're in the big city, you don't, it didn't make any headway, but those few cards and thank yous were actually some of the best things.
Yeah.
So when all that stuff happened, George Floyd and the riots and everything, and I watched things spin out of control, the mayor coming up and there was a big press conference afterwards, and the fire chief, who's came on in front of the cameras, just bashed the Portland police, how she was scared every time she walked over the city council for a meeting that Portland police were going to shoot her in the back. Just these ludicrous claims. And I watched all this and I unreal. So when I retired, I penned an email and I sent it out to the whole police bureau, and it got me in trouble. IA sent me a letter a week after I retired saying I was under investigation for misuse of email and all this crap. And
good luck, because I don't work anymore.
Good luck. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so,
what the heck were they going to investigate?
I just called out everybody. I called out city council, I called out the mayor, called out this fire chief, and I go, this, is garbage. The fear mongering, they're trying to divide the police up. You're letting Joanne Hardesty go and cut the gang unit, kick all the Portland police out of TriMet, even though 90% of the TriMet calls were in Portland.
Yeah.
The school police, everything, you just dismantled. And I knew crime was going to go up, and homicides tripled after they did all that stuff. I knew it was coming.
Everybody knew it was coming.
Anyway, so I called all that out. So anyway, the advice I have for the new guys is, boy, you better have your foundation straight before you come in, because stuff's going to come up. If you don't have your foundation, your family, your faith, everything, you are going to have bumps in the road. And without that, there's a chance you're not going to survive. And I didn't bring up, friends that had committed suicide, guys who just crashed and burned, self-destructed, drugs, alcohol, everything, marriages, picking up prostitutes, everything under the sun. They crashed and burned without, foundation, a family and faith. Those bumps in the road will get you.
Yeah.
So you better have your act together before you get in.
Yeah.
On the way out, the guys are going to retire. If you're in Portland, don't use your sick time. Save it. We have this thing where your sick time gets paid out, even though it's not dollar for dollar. I'm using my sick time still. I still have bank money because I got a whole bunch, and there's a lot of bad information for Portland guys specifically. Save your sick time. If you're sick, use your vacation, because you accrue your vacation a lot faster than your sick time. Your sick time goes into a VEBA account where you can use for anything medical related.
That's nice.
We got zero medical benefits when we left.
Yeah.
Zero. And I'm paying through the city, through this fund still. I'm still using it, It's been 5 years later. I still have money in it and stuff. So other guys though, other agencies, about, not enough about getting a hobby, because how many people, they don't last a year after they retire. Their life becomes around it. I work with a guy right now. I do have another job. I did some other handyman work and kind of things on the side after I retired, but I got back into a regular paying job, and there are guys, a lot of law enforcement people there in this security business that I do, that there are guys who worked their whole police career and they came right into this. And now they're in their early 70s and they're still working in this job. And I'm like, get a hobby. You got to find something interested in, all those things that you kind of wanted to try, go and try.
Yeah.
Try ahead of time. And, making the plans and the networks, 5 years before I retired, I was looking for a job. I knew I was going to be eligible, and like I say, things came up, but networking with people, I tell you, I tried the physical work after 50 years, 50 years old and stuff. You're not going to be building sheds. You're not going to be doing that.
No.
It's so
Everything
hard
aches.
on the body. Yeah. Use your mind. You got a lot of skills, negotiations and security, and a lot of our skills are in demand. There's jobs out there. I mean, I'm working now just to pay for my hobbies and things like that. So, retiring guys have a plan. Get the hobbies. Get in the physical stuff too. I mean, it's funny. Right near the end, all those things. The high blood pressure thing, the cholesterol. They'll come and get you.
Yep.
They
The
will.
diabetics.
Yeah.
Or lose some weight, right? That helps
Some
too.
weight. That
Yeah,
helps.
lose some weight and work out. So
Work
no,
out,
I
gym.
No.
do walks every day.
Walks are
and
good.
Walks are good, and I do push-ups.
Gym.
I'm with you there. Push-ups and
140
walking.
push-ups a day. That's what I do.
There you go. Good for you.
Just
Good for you.
Gym 10 laundry. That's what I do.
He's auditioning for the next version of Jersey Shore.
Jersey
I think,
Shore.
yeah.
Oh,
But hey, look, I don't mean to rush you off, but I know you want to you got to get to work. But Tom and I have been kicking around. At some point down the road, we're going to have a group of people that we've already talked about, and we're going to have some people around, maybe have a roundtable with different guys we've had on. We'd love to have you back because I know you've got more stories to share. And if that works out for you, we'd love to have you because
sure.
your stories are great. You tell them well, and we really enjoyed having you here today.
Yeah.
And,
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming back. Yeah.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Good times.
Anything
Yeah.
else you want to say?
Yeah.
All right,
Nope.
man.
All right.
Tom,
Thanks for tuning in.
Bye, everybody.
We're back. We're going to be back on track, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks to Tall for Coffee for the sponsorship. We'll
Yeah.
see you guys 2 and 2.
Please don't forget to drink your tall fur and
Drink
kill
your Tall
Gerba.
Fur. Peace.
Kill Gerba.
Hashtag kill Gerba.
All
Love you
right.
guys.
Thanks, everybody.